There are places across the vast spine of the Americas where the air itself seems to remember, where silence carries the echo of footsteps that no longer belong to the living, and the wind hums through abandoned streets like a requiem no one dares to finish. They are towns swallowed by dust and superstition, built upon the bones of forgotten dreams, where the earth shifts just enough to remind you that time never truly buries what it cannot forgive. You can stand in the middle of a crumbling cell block and still feel the weight of eyes that watch from centuries away, or walk the cobbled lanes of a southern town and hear the rustle of hoop skirts that haven't touched the ground in 100 years. In some corners, laughter sounds just a little too close, even when no one is there. In others, the water ripples, though the wind is still, as if something unseen is stirring just beneath the surface. Here, light falls differently, heavy, reluctant, as though it knows what lingers in the shadows and would rather not wake it. Every ruin breathes, every mountain hums, every lake dreams, and you begin to understand that some places are alive in ways that defy reason. It is said that the stones remember every whisper, that the trees trade secrets with the ghosts that pass between them, and that the restless never truly rest. They simply wait. Perhaps it's the isolation that gives them voice, or perhaps it's the guilt of history that stains the ground beneath our feet. Whatever it is, it draws the curious, the brave, and the foolish. Those who still believe that the veil between the past and the present is thinner than it seems. They come seeking answers, but often leave with questions that follow them home, lingering like the scent of rain on iron. From the haunted walls of Eastern State Penitentiary to the drowning depths of Lake Lanier, from the spectral lights of Savannah to the whispering sands of the Nazca Desert, each corner holds a fragment of the continent's unspoken story. You can feel the pulse of the land beneath your skin, ancient and uneasy, beating in time with something you can't quite name. And as the camera drifts through ruins and red skies, you start to wonder whether we are exploring the ghosts of the past or whether they are exploring us. Because some places never die, they simply wait for us to find them again. This is Unseen Americas, Lost Towns, Restless Spirits. Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. Beneath the gray skies of Pennsylvania, the Eastern State Penitentiary looms like a cathedral to despair, its cold stones soaked with centuries of silence and sorrow. Built in 1829, this fortress of isolation was once a revolutionary experiment in reform, but its silent halls soon became a labyrinth of suffering, where the echoes of the dam seem to blend with the cold wind that sweeps through the cell blocks. Behind these massive stone walls, notorious criminals like Al Capone spent their days surrounded not only by isolation, but by something far less explainable. Shadows that moved, voices that spoke, and visions that chilled the blood. Even after its closure in 1971, locals claimed to hear chains dragging at night, to see faces flicker in the narrow slits of the old cells, and to feel the unshakable presence of those who never truly left. As twilight falls over its crumbling turrets, the penitentiary seems to breathe once more, alive with secrets that time itself refuses to bury. Savannah, Georgia, USA. On the sultry coast of Georgia, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of magnolia and the hum of cicadas turns dusk into a lullaby, lies a city so drenched in memory that even the wind seems to carry whispers of the dead, a place called Savannah, where beauty and sorrow intertwine like lovers in an endless waltz. It is not a city that merely exists upon a map, but one that breathes between dimensions, where history seeps through the cracks of cobblestone streets and the past still flickers in every shadow, like a candle that refuses to die. Beneath the ancient oak trees, whose long arms drip with ghostly Spanish moss, the ground itself seems alive, a silent witness to centuries of laughter, loss, and lingering souls who never quite left. Founded in 1733 upon land that once belonged to native tribes and old spirits, Savannah was destined from its first breath to be both sacred and haunted. A place too beautiful to forget and too cursed to fully rest. Its city plan, a perfect grid drawn by human ambition, hides beneath its symmetry a chaos of unseen forces that still stir whenever the moonlight spills across its squares. Each cobblestone seems to throb with memory, and each square feels like an open wound in time, layered with centuries of footsteps that echo even when the streets fall silent. The charm of Savannah is not a simple charm, it is a veiled enchantment, the kind that lures you close with a smile before whispering something that makes your skin turn cold. Bonaventure Cemetery stretches endlessly beneath a canopy of trees that seem to mourn with every rustle of their leaves, its marble angels leaning as if tired from centuries of keeping secrets too heavy to bear. There, amid weathered stones and flickering lanterns, travelers speak of soft murmurs that rise with the mist, voices that call their names in tones both tender and tragic. The river wind that drifts through the city carries more than the scent of salt and earth. It carries fragments of songs, footsteps, and sometimes a single sigh that seems to belong to no one and to everyone. The Mercer Williams house stands immaculate, its red brick walls gleaming under the sun. But those who step inside say the air thickens with invisible sorrow, as though the house itself remembers too much. In its great mirrors, faces have been known to appear unbidden, and in its hallways, footsteps echo long after the last guest is gone, like the heartbeat of something unwilling to be forgotten. Colonial Park Cemetery, though fenced and quiet by day, becomes something else by night. They say the fog that rolls through carries the breath of thousands buried beneath, restless in their unfinished sleep. Lanterns flicker low under the Spanish moss, and sometimes the fog curls into the shape of figures, human, but only barely, who vanish when you dare to look too long. Down by the river, the pirate's house still hums with stories of sailors who vanished without farewell, swallowed by tunnels beneath the city that lead not to water, but to something darker still. Savannah's architecture gleams with an elegance both timeless and uneasy. Pastel walls, wrought iron balconies, and windows that seem to watch rather than reflect. There is a pulse in this city, a rhythm of ghost and grace that beats beneath every porch and church bell, as if heaven and hell negotiated their border right here. Some call Savannah blessed, kissed by beauty, shaped by devotion, yet others say it is cursed, forever tethered to the grief it was built upon. The truth, perhaps, lies somewhere between, in the strange balance of light and shadow that makes the air shimmer as though the past still breathes beside you. In Forsyth Park, the great fountain flows like an eternal offering, its water sparkling under gaslight. While those who linger too long swear they feel eyes upon them from nowhere and everywhere at once. Tourists lower their voices here without knowing why, perhaps sensing that their words might disturb something that should never be woken. The scent of rain and old wood mixes with candle wax and jasmine, creating an atmosphere so intoxicating it feels both holy and forbidden. Savannah seems to exist not just in geography, but in a dream, a shimmering illusion where every whisper, every breeze, every shadow could belong to someone no longer alive. As midnight nears, the city grows still and aware, as if inhaling, as if listening, as if waiting for the moment when the veil between worlds thins and everything becomes one. They say time forgot Savannah, but maybe it was Savannah that chose to forget time, to remain suspended forever between beauty and mourning, between heaven's light and the dark poetry of its ghosts. New Orleans, Louisiana, USA. New Orleans isn't a city, it's a spell, cast long ago, that still hasn't worn off, a living incantation whispered through centuries, woven from moonlight, music, and memory. Every brick, every note of jazz, every shadow that sways beneath the gas lamps feels like part of that same enchantment, ancient, intoxicating, and impossibly alive. The air is thick with jasmine, smoke, and something you can't quite name, a blend of sweetness and decay that clings to your skin like a secret. It smells like rain after confession, like stories half told, like the breath of the river before dawn. And if you breathe too deeply, it might just change you. It's the kind of place where even time walks slowly, intoxicated by its own perfume, lingering in the corners of narrow streets and the echo of a trumpet note that never seems to end. Here, clocks don't command, they observe. Days melt into nights like candle wax, and every hour feels heavy with remembrance. From the balconies of Royal Street to the fog drifting over the bayou, beauty and darkness hold hands like old lovers, inseparable, whispering secrets to one another beneath the hum of the city. You can feel it in the way laughter mingles with mourning, how every smile carries a shadow and every ghost wears perfume. The city's heartbeat is jazz, but beneath the music lies something older. Something watching, an ancestral rhythm that moves beneath the surface, unseen but deeply felt. It's the pulse of the land, the memory of the river, the hum of all the lives that passed here and refused to truly leave. Founded 3 centuries ago, New Orleans rose from swamp and sorrow, baptized in fire, flood, and folklore, yet somehow always reborn. Its survival feels less like resilience and more like defiance. A city too beautiful to die, too haunted to ever be ordinary. Its buildings lean like they've seen too much, and perhaps they have. Their iron balconies curling like lace over stories that still breathe in the cracks. The walls are layered with time, Spanish whispers beneath French sighs, Creole laughter tangled with the silence of prayers unanswered. Each courtyard hides a secret. Each alley remembers the footsteps of someone who never made it home. And if you listen closely, you might still hear them. A faint shuffle, a sigh, the echo of boots on cobblestone long after midnight. This city never forgets its ghosts. By day, the French Quarter glows in gold. By night, it shivers in blue, like a living painting that shifts with the sun. The light touches everything differently here. Soft, forgiving, a little mournful, as if even the daylight understands the weight of history beneath it. The LaLaurie mansion still draws thrill-seekers who swear they hear faint cries behind shuttered windows, a chilling reminder that beauty often hides cruelty. The house stands elegant and silent, but its silence is not peace, it's memory, tightly wound and waiting. Meanwhile, at St. Louis Cemetery, the dead sleep lightly, their names fading, but their presence not, as if their souls are simply resting between verses of the same endless hymn. Marble angels lean and watch, their wings worn smooth by time and prayer. The streets hum with brass and heartbeat, laughter and lament blending until you can't tell which is which, and maybe that's the point. Joy and sorrow have danced together here for so long. They've become the same song, the melody that defines this place. Voodoo altars flicker beside crucifixes, both reaching for the same mysterious grace, proof that faith here isn't divided, it's layered. Candlelight burns beside rum offerings, psalms mix with chants, and somehow, everything feels sacred. Even the Mississippi seems bewitched, its slow murmur sounding like a lullaby for restless souls, forever carrying secrets downriver. It moves with the patience of eternity, a mirror for both sin and salvation, a voice older than the city itself. Here, history feels tangible. You can taste it in the air, in the food, in the hush before dawn, when the fog rolls low and even the wind sounds reverent. Every flavor, every note, every glance feels like it belongs to both now and forever. The locals don't fear the spirits. They dance with them, toast them, and sometimes sing for them, because here, death is just another part of the rhythm. Mardi Gras beads glint beside gravestones, and laughter spills into the night like an offering. Festivals spill into the streets like color into water, vibrant and unstoppable, each one an act of devotion to life itself. Music shakes the air, bodies move as one, and for a moment, even grief forgets its name. The architecture gleams with iron lace, ornate yet weary, a beauty bruised by time, like a woman who's survived heartbreak and still dares to wear red. Every column, every shutter, every creak of the floorboards feels alive with personality. The line between legend and reality dissolves faster than sugar in a cafe au lait, and perhaps that's the city's greatest trick. Truth and myth blur until you stop needing to know which is which, until you simply believe. Some say the city is cursed, others call it blessed. But both are right, because New Orleans exists in the in-between, suspended between light and shadow, heaven and hell, laughter and loss. Because in New Orleans, everything sacred is haunted, and everything haunted is beautiful, and maybe that's why no one ever really leaves. They just change form, become another note in the endless song. When the mist rolls in and the trumpets fade, the city exhales, as if sighing out the memories of centuries. Every joy, every heartbreak, every name that once echoed here. It's a living soul, breathing through time. And for those who've heard its whisper, no other place will ever feel quite alive enough again, because once New Orleans claims you, even the silence elsewhere feels hollow. You leave, but it doesn't let you go. It lingers, soft as smoke, eternal as song. Virginia City. They say the mountains of Nevada keep secrets, and among their dusty folds lies one that still murmurs in silver and sorrow. Virginia City, a relic of greed and glory that refuses to fade. The desert wind that sweeps across these ridges doesn't just carry dust, it carries whispers, the low hum of something old and restless, a memory too stubborn to die. Once the glittering heart of the Comstock lode, this town rose overnight on the fevered dreams of fortune, of men who believed they could carve their destiny from stone. For a brief, blinding moment, Virginia City shone brighter than San Francisco, its saloons overflowing with miners, its theaters with laughter, its streets paved not with gold, but with promise. Yet, like all mirages born of desperation, it fell just as swiftly into the arms of legend. The streets still wear the same wooden bones from the 1860s, weathered and warped by sun, storm, and sorrow. If you walk them at dusk, you can almost hear the past trying to wake. The sharp clatter of boots on the boardwalk, the shrill whistle of a mineshift change, the ring of hammers echoing against the hills, and beneath it all, the sigh of ghosts that never learned how to rest. Here, history is not buried, it lingers, suspended in the dry mountain air, in every creaking saloon door and every rusted mine entrance that gapes like an unhealed wound. You can smell it, the sharp tang of iron, the ghost of whiskey, the faint sweetness of sagebrush growing through forgotten foundations. The discovery of silver changed everything, drawing miners, gamblers, thieves, poets, and preachers from every corner of the young nation. They came chasing light in the darkness, believing silver could buy salvation, but found instead a town that devoured them whole. But where gold and silver flow, darkness always follows, and Virginia City became both a beacon of wealth and a graveyard of ambition. Behind every toast to success lay a funeral waiting to be held. Behind every mansion, a mine collapse, a widow, a prayer. Fires tore through it, earthquakes shook it, and still the town refused to die. Its spirit was forged as hard as the ore beneath its soil, reborn each time in smoke and stubbornness. The people here didn't just survive, they endured, clinging to the edge of the desert like a vow never meant to be broken. Walk into the Washoe Club, and you might feel a hand on your shoulder when no one's there, or hear laughter drifting from an empty stairwell. The wallpaper still carries the scent of cigars and spilled bourbon, and sometime, if you linger, the mirror catches a reflection that doesn't belong to you. The locals don't flinch at such tales. To them, these spirits are just neighbors who never quite moved on. They pour an extra shot at the bar for the unseen, speak softly when the lights flicker, and nod knowingly when doors close themselves. The Opera House, rebuilt from ash, still carries the echo of long-forgotten applause. On quiet nights, caretakers swear they hear the faint rustle of dresses and the soft clearing of a singer's throat, even when the stage is bare. It's as though the performances never ended, only paused. Ghost hunters, historians, and wanderers alike come here seeking truth, and all leave with the same uneasy feeling that the past here doesn't live in memory, but in motion. It breathes through every splintered beam and every whispering gust. Every sunset here is a haunting, a moment where time folds in on itself. The red hills burn beneath the dying light, and the town seems to flicker between centuries, the living and the lost standing side by side, just for a heartbeat. The wooden sidewalks creak like tired lungs, breathing stories into the twilight. Each step feels like trespassing on someone else's dream or someone else's grave. Some say the mountain itself is cursed, that the silver came with a price too steep for any man to pay. They say the earth remembers every drop of sweat, every cry from the mines, and that it's still collecting its dead in whispers and wandering souls. Others claim to see shadowy figures drifting through fog, their faces half-formed, their eyes hollow with unfinished stories. They move as though searching for something, a lost love, a forgotten fortune, or perhaps just a way home. The old mines stretch for miles underground, twisting like veins through the mountain, a labyrinth carved by human hunger. Down there, the air grows heavy and the silence hums with unseen voices. Men once descended chasing fortune and sometimes found only the dark, or worse, the echo of their own fear. Even now, locals hear rumblings beneath their feet, though the mines have been silent for over a century. Some call it the wind. Others say it's the sound of the earth remembering. The air carries the weight of memory, thick, metallic, trembling with the echo of dynamite long gone. At night, it tastes almost electric, as if lightning has struck somewhere deep below. On Main Street, lamplight flickers as if dancing with invisible shapes, throwing long shadows that move where the wind doesn't. The light here never feels entirely alone. It seems to be performing for an audience only the town can see. The architecture, stubborn and scarred, refuses to modernize. Its false fronts and narrow windows guarding secrets like scars too sacred to heal. Every nail, every plank feels deliberate, as if the town itself knows that change would break whatever fragile magic holds it together. Virginia City feels less like a destination and more like a seance, a place where you don't just visit, you listen. You listen to the floorboards sigh, the wind hum through empty windows, the sound of time brushing against your sleeve. It's where the line between myth and memory blurs, where truth walks arm in arm with legend, and no one dares to ask which is which. Travelers come chasing history but end up confronting something far older. The haunting persistence of human desire, the endless reach of people who wanted more than the world was willing to give. There's a beauty here, yeah, but it's the kind that burns slow, beneath the skin, like the glow of embers that never cool. You don't just see Virginia City, it stays with you, under your nails, in your lungs, in your dreams. And when you finally leave Virginia City, don't look back. Some say the spirits follow those who do, drawn to the warmth of curiosity. Maybe it's superstition, or maybe it's warning, because here, the past isn't behind you. It walks beside you, quietly, waiting to be remembered. Superstition Mountains, Arizona, USA. Long before the cameras roll and the title Unseen Americas, already waiting in the heat haze distance, a jagged wall of stone and shadow rising out of the desert. Carrying on their shoulders stories of lost gold, broken men, and whispers that the land itself is alive and listening. For the Apache people who live beneath these peaks, this was not a playground or a hiking spot, but a realm wrapped in power and danger, a sacred and ominous place where spirits moved with the wind and where certain canyons and caves were spoken of only in low tones, as if the mountains might eavesdrop and punish the bold. Rumors, cryptic clues, and a long body count of those who tried to follow his ghost into the rocks. In our journey through the down on the desert floor, the ground is cluttered with volcanic rock, brittle brush, and the prints of coyotes, javelinas, and rattlesnakes. And as you walk deeper into the canyons, the silence grows heavier, not empty but dense, as if layered with centuries of footsteps from people who never came back. The history here reads like a catalog of obsession, prospectors vanishing with only scattered bones later found, hikers succumbing to the brutal Arizona sun, and lone wanderers disappearing after boasting they had finally deciphered the maps and riddles that would lead them to the Dutchman's vault of gold. Some storytellers insist the mountains are cursed, that the Peralta family, who were rumored to have mined here before being slaughtered in an Apache ambush, left behind not only hidden workings, but a trail of blood that stained the earth and drew future misfortune like a magnet. Others say the curse is not on the land, but on the human heart, that anyone who comes here driven by greed, not respect, slowly loses their grip on reason as the heat, the isolation, and the constant mirage of just one more clue gnaw away at their sanity until they step too far, too high, too deep. Yet for all its menace, the Superstition Range has its own stark beauty, with sunrise pouring molten gold over the cliffs, revealing layers of red, ochre, and black rock, while the desert floor glows with wildflowers in spring. Delicate bursts of purple and yellow that seem almost defiant against the stories of death. Along the lower slopes, traces of human presence cling to the landscape. A crumbling stone wall here, a rusted can there, a weathered wooden post that once guided travelers or marked a claim, each relic a fragment of some forgotten chapter in the mountain's long, unfinished book. For modern visitors, the trailheads, parking lots, and park signs offer a thin veneer of order, but the moment you step away from the main routes and the sound of other hikers fades, you enter a labyrinth of canyons where GPS signals falter, maps feel vague, and the old legends suddenly stop feeling like mere campfire tales. The culture that has grown up around the superstitions is a strange blend of outdoor adventure and myth-chasing, with local shops selling maps marked with X, books full of theories, and souvenirs that wink at danger. While old-timers in diners and bars raise their eyebrows and say, "You going out there alone?" On camera, we follow faint paths etched into gravel by boots and hooves, climbing toward ridgelines where the wind tugs at clothes and whispers in ears, sounding just enough like words to make you glance over your shoulder. Every gulch has its own story. A skeleton found here, a camp abandoned there, a mysterious note or map discovered among a stranger's effects, each detail feeding into the growing sense that the mountains enjoy playing games with those who step inside their domain. Night in the Superstition Mountains is not gentle. It falls quickly, swallowing color and leaving only silhouettes of jagged peaks against a deep, star-pierced sky. While the temperature drops, the sounds sharpen, and the mind begins to invent shapes in every shadow. In the flicker of a campfire, with embers rising toward constellations that the Apache once read like a book, the stories of lost mines and murdered treasure hunters feel less like folklore and more like a living presence circling just outside the ring of light. Sometimes the only architecture you'll find is nature's own. Arched rock formations framing distant valleys, overhangs that look like doorways into another world, and narrow slots where light filters down in pale beams as if descending from some place sacred and unreachable. But if you look carefully, you may notice faint petroglyphs carved into stone, patterns and figures left by earlier peoples who marked this place with symbols instead of words, perhaps as warnings, perhaps as prayers, or perhaps as a message to future wanderers that they were not the first to feel the mountain's gaze. Our journey here is less about confirming any one version of the legend and more about stepping into the atmosphere that created it, a world where danger is real, beauty is unforgiving, and the line between spiritual and physical feels thinner than the desert air. The Superstition Mountains have outlived empires, prospectors, settlers, and hikers, standing watch as names like Waltz, Peralta, and Ruth fade into dusty footnotes. Yet their stories grow stronger, retold, revised, and magnified each time someone vanishes or returns with a tale that doesn't quite add up. As our drone rises over the peaks and pulls back to reveal the full sprawl of this rugged range, you can almost believe that somewhere in those folds of stone lies a hidden shaft, a sealed tunnel, or a narrow ledge where a stash of ancient gold still waits, untouched, surrounded by the spirits of those who paid the ultimate price just to glimpse it. And so, in this episode of Unseen Americas, the Superstition Mountains are not just a backdrop of rock and cactus. They are a character in their own right, a brooding, watchful presence that seems to ask every visitor the same quiet, dangerous question: what are you really willing to lose in your search for what you think you want? Rocky Mountains, Colorado, USA. They call it the backbone of America, The Rocky Mountains of Colorado, a vast cathedral of stone and sky where the air is thin, the silence is deep, and the ancient spirits of the land still seem to whisper through the wind like half-remembered hymns from a forgotten age. Rising like jagged teeth between plains and heavens, the Rockies stretch across the state like a living myth, their snow-tipped crowns glinting in the sunlight as if the gods themselves left fingerprints on the peaks. The indigenous Ute and Arapaho once believed these mountains were alive, sentient guardians who watched over the valleys below, testing those who dared to enter their domain with storms, avalanches, and visions in the mist. Even now, as hikers and travelers carve paths through forests and granite ridges, that sense of presence remains, an invisible pulse beneath the earth, older and wiser than any human history. The history of Colorado's Rockies is written in both gold and ghost stories, for this land birthed the great mining rushes of the 19th century, drawing fortune seekers who built towns that blazed bright and died fast, leaving behind only hollow shacks and whispered regrets. When the sun sets behind Mount Elbert or Long's Peak, the light pours like molten copper across valleys where entire communities once thrived, places now reclaimed by pine, silence, and rumor. Locals still tell of miners who vanished into tunnels and never returned, of entire camps swallowed by blizzards, and of spectral lanterns seen swinging far up the slopes on nights when no living soul dares to climb. In the old ghost towns, like St. Elmo, Ashcroft, and Animas Forks, the wind slips through broken windows and rattles doors that no one has touched in 100 years, as if trying to finish conversations that death interrupted. It's said that if you stand in the center of one of these empty streets after midnight, you might hear faint piano music from a saloon long gone, or the distant laughter of prospectors who never struck it rich but refused to leave. The Rockies have always demanded reverence. Their beauty is breathtaking, but edged with cruelty. Their slopes littered with the bones of those who underestimated them. Avalanches move like living things here, silent until the moment they strike, and then unstoppable, erasing entire traces of human ambition in seconds. Beneath the grandeur lies a darker truth. The mountains remember every mistake, every life claimed, and they never truly give back what they take. The forests are thick with aspen and fir, their trunks white and trembling in the wind, reflecting the light of the moon so brightly it feels as if the world itself has turned to silver. In the high passes, ghost stories travel as easily as echoes. Skiers have spoken of shadowy figures moving across snowfields where no tracks remain the next morning. Climbers talk of voices carried by the wind, calling their names, urging them higher or deeper until reason dissolves into the thin air. Old mining tunnels, sealed by time, are rumored to hide entire chambers of gold, or perhaps something older, something not meant to be unearthed. In some valley, even modern technology falters, compasses spin, radios die, and cameras capture glimmers of light that vanish as soon as they're noticed. The Rockies are not just mountains. They are a boundary between worlds, a line drawn by nature where human time and cosmic time briefly touch. Each sunrise feels like a resurrection, each sunset a warning that night here belongs not to men, but to the mountain spirits who wake when the cold deepens. Travelers who camp too high often report dreams that don't feel like dreams. Vivid scenes of mining towns alive again, of fires glowing, of strangers watching from behind curtains. Some locals insist that the spirits of the miners still walk the trails, guarding their claims, or perhaps simply searching for warmth they'll never find again. There is beauty in the Rockies that feels almost holy, but holiness often walks hand in hand with the uncanny, and here the sacred and the haunted are the same thing. For filmmakers, this landscape is both paradise and peril, a place where every camera angle feels like a prayer and every gust of wind sounds like a voice. You come here thinking you'll film mountains, but you leave realizing you've filmed ghosts carved into stone, time itself captured in slow motion. In the Rockies, the earth breathes slow and deep, and if you stand still long enough, you might hear it breathing back, a sound that's half wind, half memory, and wholly eternal. Lake Lanier, Georgia, USA. Before we even say its name, imagine a lake in Georgia where the water never quite looks calm, where ripples move even on windless days, and where every summer, no matter how many warnings go out, the headlines still return with the same haunting theme. Someone else didn't make it back to shore. That lake is Lake Lanier, a sprawling man-made reservoir about an hour north of Atlanta, ringed with marinas, party coves, and vacation homes, yet carrying a reputation so dark that people speak about swimming here with the same uneasy tone they'd use for walking through a graveyard at midnight. If you trace its history backward, the story doesn't start with water at all, but with land, farms, churches, roads, and small communities in the Chattahoochee River Valley, including the mostly black town of Oscarville, a place scarred by racial violence in 1912, and later swallowed beneath the rising reservoir when Beaufort Dam was built in the 1950s. When the U.S. government bought up the land to flood the area and create Lake Lanier, not everything was neatly cleared away. Foundations, buildings, stretches of road, and even cemeteries were left behind in various stages of demolition, meaning that beneath the green surface today lies a drowned patchwork of human history. Divers and engineers talk about half-standing structures, tree stumps, twisted metal, and stray debris scattered across the lake bed, turning the underwater world into an obstacle course of hidden hazards that can snag anchors, trap limbs, and complicate rescue efforts whenever someone slips beneath the surface. The water itself is notoriously murky, clouded with silt and sediment so thick that visibility drops to almost nothing a few feet down, creating a kind of man-made twilight where search teams often have to feel their way through cold darkness instead of seeing it. Since the lake's creation, hundreds of people have died here, from boat collisions, freak accidents, and especially drownings. Enough that some sources estimate the toll at several hundred to over 700 deaths in just a few decades, a number that has fueled endless theories about curses and restless spirits. In our episode of Unseen America's Lost Towns, Restless Spirits, the camera glides over water that looks serene from above, but every shot is haunted by the knowledge that somewhere below, there are cars, docks, boats, and perhaps even fragments of homes frozen in the dark. Local folklore has turned Lake Lanier into something more than dangerous. It has become haunted in the regional imagination, with some residents insisting that the high number of deaths isn't just bad luck, but payback from the displaced communities and disturbed graves beneath the waves. One of the most famous stories is the legend of the Lady of the Lake, a ghostly woman said to wander the shoreline and hover near the surface, often linked to a 1950s car crash where two women plunged off a bridge into the water, with one body not recovered for decades. People say that on foggy nights, headlights seem to appear and vanish on the old bridge routes, and drivers crossing Brown's Bridge or other spans swear they've seen a figure in a dress standing by the guardrails, dripping wet and staring straight ahead as if waiting to be noticed. The haunting isn't just about apparitions, it's about patterns that feel too eerie to ignore. Families torn apart by boating wrecks, kids lost in shallow coves, and experienced swimmers pulled down in water they thought they understood. Newspapers routinely report summer seasons marked by clusters of accidents, with one year seeing more than a dozen deaths and others punctuated by high-profile tragedies that keep Lake Lanier in the national spotlight as one of America's most controversial and feared lakes. Beneath the statistics lies a story of displacement and erasure, the flooding of farmlands, the relocation of families, and the covering over of a region whose Black residents had already been driven out decades earlier, leading many to say that the lake is not just deep with water, but heavy with unresolved history. As we film from the shoreline, you can still find relics of this layered past. Abandoned docks listing at odd angles, half-sunken boats eaten by algae, and fragments of old infrastructure that hint at how quickly human creations can be swallowed by the elements. During holiday weekends, the lake transforms into a crowded stage of jet skis, pontoons, and party coves pulsing with music. Yet even in the middle of all that noise, there's a strange tension, as if everyone is aware, somewhere in the back of their mind, that this water has a reputation for turning celebrations into memorials. Rescue crews and divers who work Lanier long-term often speak of the lake with a mixture of professional respect and quiet dread, knowing how quickly visibility can drop, how easily a search line can snag, and how often they're called not to save lives, but to recover bodies. Some of them privately admit that there are parts of the lake they simply don't like. Deep, flooded hollows where sonar shows strange shapes and where every movement underwater feels as if something is watching from just outside the beam of light. The mythos of Lake Lanier has grown beyond Georgia. Documentaries, podcasts, horror stories, and social media threads all circle the same questions. Is the lake cursed? Is it haunted? Or is human negligence the only real monster here? For our cameras, Lanier offers striking visuals. Early morning mist curling over still water, pine-covered islands rising like dark humps from the surface, sunken docks casting eerie shadows below. But every beautiful frame has a shadow narrative lurking within it. If you listen to people who grew up nearby, you'll hear a pattern in their stories. Childhood summers spent boating and swimming, interrupted by sudden, sobering memories of sirens, helicopters, and searchlights sweeping across the lake at night. The most chilling thing about Lake Lanier is not a single ghost story or accident, but the way its tranquil surface hides so much. Submerged towns, lost graves, wrecked boats, and the names of hundreds of people whose last moments were spent gasping in water that feels strangely unwilling to let go. It's easy, standing on the shore with the sun shining and families laughing nearby, to believe that the horror is exaggerated, that the lake is just another busy reservoir with an overblown legend, until you notice the memorial wreath at the boat ramp or the no diving sign hammered a little more firmly into the ground. Whether you come here as a tourist, a local, or a filmmaker, Lake Lanier forces you to hold two realities at once: the postcard image of summer fun and the invisible gravity of history, tragedy, and rumor pulling from below. And as our episode fades out over a dusk shot of the lake, lights from boats dotted like stars on dark water, you can't help but feel that somewhere beneath that calm surface, the old town, the forgotten graves, and the stories that never fully ended are still there, listening, waiting, and quietly counting. Nazca Lines, Peru, USA. The Nazca Lines in southern Peru stretch across nearly 80 kilometers of desert, a vast geometric puzzle carved between 500 BCE and 500 CE by the ancient Nazca civilization, a culture without wheels, iron, or modern tools, yet somehow capable of creating one of the most precise and enduring artworks on Earth. These aren't small etchings you can stand beside. Some figures measure over 300 meters long, best seen only from hundreds of meters above ground. A perspective impossible for the people who made them. The desert's surface, covered with iron oxide stones, hides pale clay beneath. By scraping away that top layer, the Nazca expose clean, bright soil, creating lines that have survived for millennia because this place rarely sees rain. From the air, the pampa becomes a canvas of astonishing order. Straight lines, trapezoids, spirals, and stylized animals. A condor, a hummingbird, a dog, a fish, a tree, each drawn with an accuracy modern surveyors still struggle to replicate. To scientists, the puzzle is twofold. Not only how they were built, but why. Some argue they are astronomical charts, aligning with solstices and celestial bodies, turning the desert floor into an open observatory that tracked the rhythms of the heavens. Others suggest they are ritual walkways, pathways for pilgrims performing sacred dances to honor gods of water and fertility in a land where rain meant life itself. In the mid-20th century, German mathematician Maria Reiche dedicated her life to studying the lines, mapping and cleaning them by hand, often sleeping alone in a hut in the desert and arguing passionately that they formed a calendar written in geometry. Her devotion turned the Nazca lines from a curiosity into a protected World Heritage Site, and even now, decades after her death, locals call her the Lady of the Lines. Pseudo-archaeologists such as Erich von Daniken fueled wilder speculation, proposing that the lines were landing strips for extraterrestrial visitors, an idea dismissed by scholars but embraced by popular imagination, adding another layer of legend to the sands. Standing here, you feel the strange fusion of science and spirituality. The air hums with both data and devotion. The land is so dry that even footsteps can linger for years, yet the lines remain crisp, preserved as if the desert itself is guarding them. Satellite imagery has revealed new figures, previously unseen shapes hidden beneath layers of sand, proving that the Nazca story is still unfolding. At sunrise, when the light hits low, shadows trace the contours of the designs, transforming flat lines into living forms that seem to rise and breathe with the earth. Drone footage captures the surreal scale, a landscape turned manuscript, a message meant for eyes in the sky, perhaps the gods themselves. The desert is utterly silent, except for the faint hiss of wind sliding across stone. In that quiet, you can almost hear ancient footsteps echoing, circling, repeating the same patterns century after century. For modern explorers, it's a reminder that art and belief are sometimes the same thing, an attempt to make meaning in a world that offers none. The paradox of the Nazca lines is that they are both simple and impossible. You can describe how they were made, but not why they still matter so deeply. When twilight comes and the desert turns gold, it's easy to imagine the Nazca priests still walking here, shadows inside the lines, endlessly tracing the boundary between earth and sky. The Nazca lines endure not because they asked to be solved, but because they remind us that some messages were never written for us to understand, only to wonder. Berlin, Nevada. Long before you see Berlin, you feel it, a slight tightening in the chest as the pavement narrows. The world empties, and Nevada's high desert opens into an expanse of pale hills and sagebrush that seems to stretch all the way to the edge of memory. Then, almost shyly, the town appears on the slope, a cluster of sun-bleached buildings, weathered to the color of old bones, clinging to the western side of the Shoshone Range and gazing east across a wide, silent basin. Berlin feels less like a destination and more like a ghost that has agreed just this once to let you see it. A mining town from the 1890s, caught mid-collapse, arrested in its decay so that visitors can wander through someone else's pause button. Wooden cabins stand in uneven rows, their doors hanging slightly open as if expecting miners to come back from their shifts. The blacksmith shop still smells faintly of rust. The boarding house porch still faces the sun, and the great stamp mill still looms above everything like a slumbering beast of timber and iron. Walk slowly, and details begin to emerge. A broken bottle half buried in dust, a chair listing in a corner, a faded curtain still clinging to a rod. All small artifacts of lives that were once ordinary and are now unreachably distant. Somewhere between 1896 and 1911, Berlin lived its entire life, discovered, built, worked, and emptied. The Berlin mine tunneling deep into the mountain while families tried to scratch a sense of home from this hard, high desert. At the town's peak, children would have played in these dusty streets, chasing each other past wagons and ore carts, while their parents labored above and below ground, always listening for the distant crash or muffled shout that meant something had gone wrong in the tunnels. Now, the only footsteps are yours, and perhaps the soft pads of a fox weaving between the buildings at dusk, or the occasional hiker, head down against the wind, reading the interpretive signs that try to condense a whole town story into a few paragraphs. The air here is thin and dry, the kind of air that erases moisture but preserves history, allowing wood to crack but not rot, paint to peel but not disappear, objects to fade without fully surrendering. Above the ghost town, the hills hold another secret: the stone-locked bones of ichthyosaurs, marine reptiles that swam through warm Jurassic seas nearly 250 million years ago, long before there were maps, mines, or the idea of Nevada. Inside the fossil house, their skeletons lie side by side, vertebrae overlapping like gears in some ancient, drowned machine. An entire pod of giants caught in a moment of death that stretched into eternity. To stand in Berlin, between the deserted houses and the fossil beds, is to feel crushed in the middle of a vast timeline. Human years on one side, geologic ages on the other, both staring down at you in patient, unhurried silence. The light here plays tricks on the town. In the harsh noon sun, everything looks brittle and exposed, but as evening approaches, shadows soften sharp edges and the buildings seem to relax, almost as if the ghosts are finally comfortable coming out. Some visitors say that, at that hour, they've heard the faint murmur of conversation drifting on the breeze, or the metallic echo of a hammer on an anvil where no living smith is working. Maybe it's just the wind tugging at loose siding and tossing small stones across the ground. But in a ghost town preserved this well, it doesn't take much imagination to picture figures moving slowly behind the warped glass panes. The cemetery, small and sparse, feels like the town's memory made visible. Simple headstones facing the same vast desert their occupants once worked. Their stories boil down to a name, a date, and a view. Our camera lingers there, letting the wind do the talking, panning from grave to grave before drifting back down toward the mill, where huge timbers cast long, skeletal shadows across the slope. In Unseen America's Lost Towns, Restless Spirits, Berlin becomes more than a preserved site. It becomes a metaphor for every forgotten ambition that once roared and then went quiet. Every community that rose with hope and fell with a sigh no one bothered to record. The state park signs tell you about ounces of gold produced, dates of operation, and the year it joined the National Register of Historic Places, but the wind tells you something different. How quickly laughter fades, how long the echo lingers. By the time night fully settles, the ghost town is swallowed in a blackness, broken only by starlight. The Milky Way spilling overhead like a river of pale ore, and the outlines of the buildings merging into one dark, irregular shape against the hillside. Somewhere below, the mine tunnels cut like cold veins through the rock, sealed off from human footsteps, but perhaps not from the lingering presence of those who spent their lives breathing dust in the dark. You stand there, alone in a town that once rang with voices, and realize how thin the line is between alive and abandoned, how a place can go from home to relic in the span of a few bad years. Berlin doesn't scream its haunting, it whispers it, in flaking paint, in sagging roofs, in machinery that looks one oil can away from working again, in fossils that remind you that even mountains are temporary. When you finally drive away, the ghost town shrinks in your rearview mirror until it's just a smudge on the hillside, then nothing at all. But the feeling of it, the layered time, the quiet persistence comes with you, riding shotgun in the dark. And somewhere back in Berlin, under a sky the miners and ichthyosaurs once shared in different forms, the town goes on waiting, patient and composed, a small, stubborn echo of human presence in a desert that knows how to outlast everything. Salton Sea, California, USA. Under a pale desert sky, the Salton Sea glows like a mirage, a sheet of silver light sprawled across California's lowest lands, beautiful from a distance, but haunted up close, a mirror that remembers what it used to reflect. You can smell it before you see it: salt, decay, and something chemical, sharp and sweet, like the scent of the world rusting in slow motion. Once, this place was a mistake turned miracle, a man-made sea that promised life in the middle of emptiness, a shimmering dream that dared the desert to bloom. By the 1950s, the shores were alive with laughter, neon signs, tiki bars, motels painted turquoise and pink, boats slicing through the water like silver knives under a boiling sun. They called it the Salton Riviera, a desert paradise for the bold and the wealthy, a place where America came to play on weekends and leave their footprints in sand made of salt. But the dream was fragile, balanced on evaporation and illusion. Beneath every wave, the chemistry of collapse was already stirring. Decade by decade, the sea thickened, concentrating its own death until life could no longer bear it. The fish began to die in waves so vast that the shoreline turned white, not with sand, but with bones, and the gulls screamed over them as if mourning the sea's last breath. The birds fell next, poisoned by the same waters that once gave them refuge, their wings folding quietly on the crust of salt that now passes for a beach. The towns followed soon after, their optimism draining away like the waterline. Resorts boarded up, billboards fading, swimming pools filling with dust and regret. Today, the Bombay beach stands as a surreal art installation made by time. Rusted trailers sprayed with neon graffiti, sculptures jutting from the salt like gravestones, and silence broken only by wind humming through empty windows. At sunrise, the lake looks holy, light spilling across its surface like liquid glass. The mountains mirrored so perfectly that it feels like a portal to somewhere kinder. But the illusion never lasts. The smell creeps back, the flies return, and the silence begins to feel like judgment. Locals say you can hear the sea breathe, a low, wet exhale that rises at dusk when the air cools and the water shifts. Some swear they've seen shapes moving far out on the surface. Lights, figures, impossible reflections, like the ghosts of pleasure boats drifting through the afterlife. Our drone captures the beauty and the rot, skeletal piers extending into nowhere, waves lapping against the remains of a pier that hasn't held a boat in 50 years. At night, the Salton Sea feels alive again, not with motion, but with memory, as if the air itself hums with the static of everything that's been lost. The silence here is never complete. It buzzes faintly, like an old radio between stations, filled with the ghosts of music, laughter, and engines that once cut across this desert shore. The sound is strange out here. Frogs that aren't frogs. Wind that sounds like whispers. The faint rattle of rusted swings, still moving in playgrounds no one remembers. Even the salt crackles underfoot, brittle and hollow, like old bones turning in their sleep. Each step feels like walking on the remains of something once alive. Sometimes, the horizon flickers, heat mirage or ghost light. No one's sure, and for a moment you could believe the old resort lights have come back on, the music about to start again. You can almost hear the echo of 1950s laughter, the clink of glasses, the shuffle of swim fins in shallow water that glittered once, before it poisoned itself with its own beauty. Old photographs lie scattered in the dust of abandoned homes, their edges curled, colors bleached but their joy somehow intact, families smiling beneath paper palms, fathers in wide-brim hats, mothers balancing cocktails, children frozen mid-laugh. They look so alive it hurts to think that every wave in the background was already carrying salt enough to kill. In some places, the ground bubbles, not with water, but with gas escaping from the rot beneath. Each hiss a reminder that this sea is still dying, just very, very slowly. Fish bones glitter like silver confetti across the shore, their skulls small as coins, their eyes long dissolved into the earth. The smell, sweet, chemical, metallic, clings to your clothes like a warning. And yet, the sunsets here are beyond belief. Molten orange spilling into violet, the entire basin glowing like the inside of a living ember. The mountains on the far side turn black against the fire, and for a few perfect minutes you forget the ruin. You just stand there, suspended in beauty too vast to belong to the living. You stand there, camera in hand, realizing that even ruin can seduce, that beauty doesn't need to be pure to be powerful. Maybe that's the sea's final trick, to hold you in its gaze long enough for you to see yourself in its reflection. Something broken, yes, but still shining in the light. The air feels heavy, electric, as if the desert itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to understand something it's been trying to say for a century. Maybe it's about cycles, creation and collapse, water and thirst, desire and consequence. Maybe it's just the sound of the earth remembering what it once promised to forget. Even the graffiti seems to shimmer with meaning. Words like hope, home, remember painted across walls that haven't sheltered anyone in decades. Bright colors against decay, like defiance itself. Art is a kind of a heartbeat, pulsing faintly in a body that refuses to die. You start to think maybe the artist came here not to decorate the decay, but to redeem it, to turn loss into a language the wind could carry. Spray paint becomes scripture, the ruined walls a new kind of cathedral, one where silence listens and the echoes of the past answer back. Every reflection on the water looks like a memory trying to come back, fractured, luminous, refusing to die quietly. The surface ripples like old film, scenes from another life flashing and fading. Speedboats, bonfires, neon signs. The world as it once was, replaying itself in the shimmer of salt and sun. And as you leave, you glance once more in the rearview mirror, the sea glinting like a ghost in the distance, still beautiful, still broken, still whispering your name. It looks almost peaceful from afar, but you know better now. You know it isn't sleeping, it's remembering endlessly. The color palette here is unreal. Pink skies, gold water, white salt, black birds, like a world painted in memory rather than pigment. There's art everywhere now, as if creativity is the only thing that still dares to live here. Every mural, every sculpture a small rebellion against extinction. And yet, beneath the art, the sadness lingers. This was once a place of joy, and the ruins still remember laughter the way a wound remembers pain. The Salton Sea is both graveyard and gallery, both warning and wonder, both a ruin of the past and a prophecy of the future. Standing on its edge, you feel as though you're staring at the end of something. Maybe a lake, maybe an era, maybe faith itself. The horizon trembles with heat, and in that shimmer, it's hard to tell where the sea ends and the sky begins, or whether either still believes in us. Every story we tell about the Salton Sea is really a story about ourselves, about our hunger to create paradise and our talent for breaking it. And yet, for all its ruin, the sea remains achingly beautiful, a wound so luminous you can't look away. As darkness falls, the water glows faintly beneath the star, and the desert exhales, a single, endless sigh from a sea that was never meant to be. As the haunting echoes of America's forgotten towns and restless spirits slowly dissolve into the fading horizon, it feels as though the ghosts of the past are finally exhaling, yet the journey itself is far from over, merely shifting its gaze towards something deeper, older, and infinitely darker. Beyond the sun-scorched deserts, the towering mountain to memory, a world where history bleeds into myth, and every shadow tells a story that refuses to die. In the next chapter of our journey, we will cross vast oceans and centuries of silence to wander lands steeped in ancient secrets and eternal twilight, where every crumbling wall seems to murmur warnings and every gust of wind carries the sigh of centuries gone by. These are places where legends breathe through cracked stones and where time itself hesitates to move, as if afraid to disturb the memories sleeping beneath the earth. From remote islands cloaked in forbidden history to forests that hum with unanswered questions, the earth hides more than it reveals, its beauty often serving as a thin veil for something far older, darker, and more mysterious waiting patiently beneath. Every winding path draws us deeper into the unknown, into a realm where silence speaks louder than words, and the ghosts of the past wear the faces of those who once dared to dream, love, and fear. Here, beauty and terror are not opposites but partners in an endless dance, circling each other just beyond the reach of reason, luring the curious ever closer with every heartbeat. You'll begin to feel the weight of stories untold pressing gently against your skin, carried by the cold winds that remember what humanity has tried so hard to forget, the mistakes, the sacrifices, and the truths buried under centuries of denial. Every corner of this world hides a question no one dares to answer, and every ruin guards its final breath as though waiting for the one soul brave, or foolish, enough to listen. So when the lights fade and the night grows heavy around you, let your eyes adjust to the darkness, because only then will you truly see the world through a different lens, one that reveals both its wounds and its wonders. For some places do not die when time forgets them. They linger, patient and watching, waiting quietly to be found once again by those who still believe that stories never truly end. And when we find them, when we step into their silence, they do not merely show themselves. They look back, measuring our courage against the shadows they've kept. The next journey will take us to the fragile edge of the supernatural, where myth collides with memory, and where the line between reality and legend dissolves into mist. So pack not just your curiosity, but your fear, your awe, and your courage, for what lies ahead is not merely travel, nor mere exploration. It is a descent into the unseen corners of our planet and into the uncharted depths of ourselves.